If there was ever a phrase that people said to me after I had my first baby that made me want to punch them in the throat, it was this. But I also have to hold up my hands and say I have said this to so many people as well. And that's, oh, that's normal. And I know that when people say it after you've been talking about whatever it is you're going through, it is done in a way to be reassuring or to show that you've been through something similar. But I think the reason it rankles me so much is that it just feels a bit dismissive. Like to say, oh, that's normal, just means that you should be able to crack on with it, or that other people have coped with it and you should too. So I thought I would do an episode on 10,000 Steps with Baby on things that are normal but are still really challenging. And to anyone who has ever said this to me, then don't worry, I know the way it was meant. And to all the people I said this to, despite knowing it wasn't the right thing to say, then I apologise, because even if something is normal, it can still be really, really, really hard. So number one, and that's being heavily pregnant. And of course, for lots of people, the whole of pregnancy is very hard. But I think universally, even if you got lucky and the first part of your pregnancy was fine, everyone is just miserable those last few weeks. Your back hurts, your hips hurt, you need to wee every 10 minutes, you feel out of breath, you can't get comfy ever, and it's difficult to sleep. It's just a rubbish couple of weeks. And it's completely normal, but it is totally rubbish. And everyone loves to comment to a heavily pregnant woman, oh, you're about to pop, and oh, you're huge. And you keep having to have the same conversation endlessly. And women love to top whatever you're going through with their pregnancy. So if you say, oh, I've got really swollen ankles, then they say, oh, well, I stopped being able to wear shoes at 6 weeks pregnant or whatever. And if you speak to a midwife or a GP or doctor about it, then of course you're told to suck it up for the last few weeks because it's all normal. And of course it is, but it's still really, really hard. Number two, and that's not having the delivery you want. I think when you find out you're pregnant, this is something you think about a lot. And of course, you're encouraged to plan what you would want to happen. And the ideal birth plan will obviously be different for everyone. But I think normal is the wrong word here. But it is very, very common that you don't get what you wanted to happen. And I think we dismiss that can be very devastating for some people. And people will say that the important thing is that mother and baby are okay and out safely. But the birth of your children are probably the days you will remember for the rest of your life. And if it wasn't what you had planned, then that can be really hard, especially as I think women can get quite entrenched in the idea of how you should have a baby, that there is a right way or a better way of doing it. I had a friend who wanted a vaginal birth, and for her and her baby's safety, she ended up having to have a C-section. And she felt like she had failed. And I've heard similar stories about women who really didn't want to have epidurals, and then they did, and they felt like, I don't know, they took the easy route out. And I mean, it's just crazy. If you needed an operation and you said, well, I won't have any anaesthetic, just cut me open and I can prove to everyone that I don't need it, then, no one would be applauding you. They would just think you're a lunatic. So why we all revert back 100 years of medical advancement when it comes to having babies, I'm not sure. So, yeah, if your labour didn't happen the way you thought or hoped it would, then I'm sorry. I hope you can move past any feelings of failure or disappointment or anger or however it feels for you and realise that you did a great job with whatever happened. It's not easy to push a baby out your vagina. It's not easy to have salad tongs put up your hoo-ha. It's not easy to have major abdominal surgery. So whatever happened, you did amazing. Number 3, having no sleep. I did a whole episode on this, so if you're struggling, then please go and have a listen, because I could talk about this endlessly. But yeah, this is definitely an area where I have said breezily to other people, oh, that's normal, which is bad, because I know exactly how incredibly hard this is to be having no sleep. I know what it's like to literally feel like you will die if you don't get some sleep soon. And like I said in the baby sleep episode, it is completely normal. That is how babies sleep. They wake up a lot and they want to feed all night and they want to sleep on you. But it's so, so hard There's a reason sleep deprivation is used as a form of torture. Humans can go about 11 days without sleep, and then your body literally shuts down and you die. It affects your physical health, your mental health, your relationship with your partner, the relationship with your baby, everything. And when you don't have a village and you just have to crack on, it's just, I don't even have the words for it. And in the UK, at least, we're all really bad at asking or accepting help. Maybe in other places it's different, or if you have family nearby, this might be easier. But I found it really difficult to accept help, even when I was just completely drowning. I'm finding it easier the second time round. A friend came round to visit when Alba was about 3 months old, and she said, let me just play with her downstairs and you go have a bath or lie down. And with my first, I just don't think I could have done that. I'm not sure why. But this time I was like, thank you, that sounds amazing. And I didn't sleep, but I spent a good amount of time just vegetating in bed, resting, and it felt amazing. So you know who you are, and thank you. So, like I said, I could talk about this endlessly, but yes, your baby not sleeping or only sleeping on you, normal 100%, but also probably one of the hardest parts about being a parent. I have no advice, but you're not alone. I see you. Number 4, your baby just wants you, or you can't put the baby down, or feeling touched out. I think all that just sort of goes together. Alba hasn't reached this separation anxiety stage yet, but I remember it so vividly with James. I could not get anything done at all. He had to be stuck in my arms for every single second for months. When I put him down on the floor of the bathroom so I could have a wee, he would wail for every single second until I picked him back up again. I struggled to make myself anything for lunch because it would have to be something I could make with one hand. My arms and back were just so painful, and by the end of the afternoon I would just be so incredibly touched out from having a little person literally on top of me non-stop. And of course, 100% normal. He eventually grew out of it, though he did have other times when he would have weeks of separation anxiety again. And of course it's forming a healthy connection, etc. But it was so hard. And even when grandparents were around to help, or his dad, 90% of the time he wanted nothing to do with them. It had to be me. So yeah, that stage, if you're in it, so hard, so hard. So well done for surviving. Number 5, feeling really angry or sad or anxious. It's normal for these really overwhelming feelings to come and go, but I'll say this with the caveat that if these feelings are there most of the time, or they're interfering with your life, or you just think it's too much, then it's best to go to your doctor and talk about it, because it could be symptoms of postpartum depression or anxiety, and there is lots of help and support out there for that. Don't worry about getting help. It's really common. No one is going to think you're a bad mum. No one is going to take your baby off you, but they will look after you. So definitely don't suffer in silence. But sometimes you can be mentally well, but still have moments of just complete rage or crushing sadness, or any emotion really. Partly because it takes a long time for hormones to settle, and you've just gone through one of the biggest life events possible and you're sleep deprived. And also because children seem to be designed to push you to the very edge of your sanity, even though you love them to pieces. I remember one really, really bad night when James was maybe 5 or 6 months old, and it got to about 3 a.m. and James had been waking up every 30 minutes screaming, and he woke up crying for the 100th time, and I felt something in me get so close to snapping, and I'd picked him up and I was literally a millisecond away from shaking him, because I was just so full of this absolute rage. Not at him, but just at the whole situation, and being so exhausted. And I just managed to pull myself back, and I put him down and went and got Jack, who was sleeping in the spare room at that point. And I was crying. And I was crying because I felt so guilty. And I said, you need to take him. I think I'm going to shake him. And Jack went and sorted him out, and I slept in the spare room for the rest of the night. And I hate telling that story. It's really personal, and even saying it out loud, I feel terrible. But I think it's a really important thing to talk about because I love my son. Well, both my children now, of course. More than life itself, I would happily die for them. But in that moment, I was so close to snapping. I was a breath away from shaking him, and I realised how easy it would be to just lose it for a split second. So I guess in a roundabout way, I'm trying to say that it's normal to have big feelings, as Miss Rachel would say. But it's really hard. I'm going to guess lots of people have a story similar to mine, where it all just feels completely overwhelming. But if you're feeling like you have that a lot, or you're just not sure, then there's lots of support out there, like I said, and you don't have to do it alone. Number 6, hating going back to work or hating leaving your baby. Again, this is something I've talked about before. I've never found it easy to leave James, or Alba now. It has been a source of argument for me and Jack quite a few times. He would be keen for us to try and go on some weekends or nights away, or to go on a holiday with a kids' creche, but I just don't feel able to leave James. Alba just can't be left at the moment because of how often she's breastfeeding, but even if she wasn't, I would really struggle to leave her. And I think this sometimes comes across like I don't trust people, such as grandparents, to look after them, but it's nothing to do with that. I can't really explain it. It's just a sort of biological requirement to be close to them. I just want to be with them, even when I desperately need a break. I'm guessing it's just an evolutionary thing. If you left your baby in your cave, then they could get eaten by a tiger. So we've been trained to want to keep them close. So yeah, I find that really hard. And leaving James at nursery was just awful. Even when I knew he was happy there, I still had this horrible heart wrench pretty much every day that I dropped him off. And of course, that was coupled with the guilt that I should have been at home with him. And I've heard this story from lots of mums of crying in the car or the guilt. So yeah, it's normal, but it's really hard. And people will try and comfort you and say, oh, they'll get over it, or it's better to make it quick or whatever. But I give you permission if you need it, to find it really rubbish. And you're allowed to cry in your car if you want. And of course, conversely, if you didn't find it hard, then this isn't me saying that that's wrong. It's different for everyone and their circumstances. So please don't feel like I'm saying this is how you should find it. Number 7, worrying about milestones. So you definitely can't say anything about what your baby isn't doing without someone immediately saying, that's normal. And 100% they are right. Social media has turned developmental milestones into this competition, which I think has always existed, like the Bluey episode, if you've seen it. But I think it's now more in your face than previous generations. And I think people forget or don't realise that from a medical point of view, milestones are there to tell doctors if there's something not right with the baby. So if a baby isn't rolling over at a certain point, then it's more so a doctor or health visitor could think, oh, does baby need some extra support? Does baby need an assessment for muscular conditions? It's not a marker of baby being intelligent or behind other babies. They could still be prime minister and astrophysicist, even if they don't walk till they're 18 months or whatever. So yeah, it is normal for every baby to be different. But it's also hard to see your friends' babies or babies on the internet and not compare or worry that your baby isn't doing something. James was a late talker. When he was about 18 months or more, he could still only say maybe 5 words, and that was like da for dog. And lots of the other similar age toddlers around me were saying short sentences, and they were just way ahead compared to him. And I wanted to talk about my concerns, but people would just be very quick to say, oh, well, he'll be talking when he's 10. And while they were right, and he did eventually catch up, it still would have been nice to talk about my worries. And I'm 100% guilty of doing this to other people, probably because of that experience. So, I say, oh, James didn't talk, but then he did. It's normal. Don't worry. So, yeah, if I've done that to you, then I'm sorry. It's normal to worry, but it's nicer to be able to talk that through than just be told not to worry, if that makes sense. Number 8, So this is the last one, and it's kind of the opposite of the others. This is something that is very, very common, but it isn't normal. And that's having incontinence issues after having a baby. And I hear lots of women or mums talking about, oh, you've had a baby. So, of course, wee yourself a little bit when you sneeze or you run for the bus or whatever. And it's seen just as a new baseline that is something you just have to put up with. And pelvic floor problems are unbelievably common in women, even if you hadn't had kids. But it isn't something you just have to put up with. There are lots of treatments available. The easiest thing would be Kegel exercises. And if you're in the UK, the NHS has an app called Squeezy that you can download for free, and it tells you how to do them and reminds you. And if that isn't helping, then, you can see your GP, or they might refer you to a pelvic floor physiotherapist. There are loads of options, all the way up to surgery. So yeah, it doesn't have to be your new normal. So I just thought I would add that one in. So thank you so much for listening. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you think I've missed. What's your thing that you found infuriating when someone just kind of blows you off with a, oh, that's normal? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're using to listen. And yes, I hope you have a great week. I will see you next time. Bye.